I never thought a simple pizza delivery could turn my whole night upside down, but here we are. So picture this. It's a Friday evening. I'm wrapped in my usual comfortable chaos. Half a day's work behind me, some laundry that definitely needed doing still sitting on the couch, and me in sweatpants, ready for the kind of evening that involves zero social interaction except for the occasional doorbell ring. You know, just a typical solo night with Netflix, nachos, and the pizza I'd ordered about 30 minutes earlier. Around the time I heard the doorbell, I was halfway through debating whether to start a new show or rewatch something I've seen 100 times. I thought, great, just the pizza guy, get this over with, and shuffled over, still wearing this sweatpants and t-shirt uniform that says, "I'm not trying, but don't judge me." I opened the door, and there he is. Not just your usual tired college kid, or the stone delivery driver who's clearly counting down the minutes till his shift ends. This guy looked like he had just stepped out of some indie movie. Dark jeans, a snug black hoodie, a baseball cap tilted just right, and this kind of smile that wasn't forced, like he actually wanted to be there delivering my pizza. He hands me the box and then, out of nowhere, says, "Hey, wait, do I know you from somewhere?" I blinked, caught a little off guard. Because, honestly, how often does the pizza delivery guy recognize you? I laughed nervously, half joking. Maybe from the neighborhood? Or the pizza chain's secret fan club? He smiled wider, and I noticed something in his eyes, a flicker like he was trying to place me but couldn't quite get there. No, I'm pretty sure we've met. You look really familiar. Now, I'm standing there holding a hot pizza box, feeling like I just stepped into a scene where the background music swells and the plot thickens. I mean, what are the chances? In this entire city, out of all the faces, this guy delivering pepperoni and mushrooms to my doorstep has seen me before? The thing is, I wasn't even sure I wanted to admit at first that maybe, just maybe, I thought I recognized him too. There was this spark in his eyes that pulled me in, a kind of, wait, this is important vibe. I found myself suddenly interested in a pizza delivery in a way I never thought possible. So yeah, the pizza was still warm, but for some reason, the moment felt electric, like more than just cheesy bread was about to be shared. And that's how it started. The night I opened my door and met the guy who somehow knew me, but I wasn't quite sure how. There was a moment where I just stood there, pizza box in hand, caught between wanting to close the door and run inside to my perfectly planned, unbothered night and this weird urge to figure out who this guy was. The fact that he'd remembered me, or thought he did, was unexpected, but kind of thrilling. So I said, "Okay, I'm curious. Where do you think we've met?" He laughed softly, like he was relieved I didn't just slam the door in his face. "Honestly, I'm not even sure. I mean, I deliver all over the city, but your face stood out. You've got one of those faces. You know the kind that sticks in your mind? Maybe I saw you at a coffee shop or a park?" I smiled. "Yeah, I get that. I'm kind of a regular at the one around the corner, but I'm pretty sure I'd remember a guy like you delivering pizzas there." I motioned to the black hoodie. "You work for this place or just freelance?" "Just this place. It's a side gig while I'm figuring things out," he said, shrugging. "But hey, it's honest work, and sometimes I get to meet interesting people. Like you." My cheeks warmed, not gonna lie. It was the kind of line you hear in movies, but hearing it delivered so casually, so genuinely, made me want to believe there was something real there. So I said, "Since you're so confident you know me, how about you come in for a slice?" Not on the clock, just to prove it. He hesitated for the briefest second, then nodded. "Sure, why not?" We shuffled inside, me closing the door behind us and setting the pizza box on the coffee table. The apartment was small, a bit messy, but cozy enough. I realized how strange it was to have someone I barely knew just casually step into my life. In my living room. He kicked off his shoes and plopped down on the couch, grabbing a slice like he'd been invited 100 times before. I sat next to him, feeling this quiet buzz, like the air between us had suddenly shifted. "So," I said, trying to keep the conversation flowing, "have you always worked pizza delivery?" He shook his head as he took a bite. "Nah, before this, I was a barista. But the schedule was brutal, and it just didn't feel right anymore. I'm thinking of going back to school, maybe something in graphic design." "What about you?" I told him about my job at a small startup, the kind of work that was equal parts exciting and exhausting. It felt good to talk, like maybe this guy was more than just a random delivery driver. After a while, the conversation drifted from jobs and pizza toppings to movies we liked, music tastes, and the weird little things about the city we both loved. I kept sneaking glances at him, noticing how his eyes lit up talking about his favorite bands and how the light from the lamp cast soft shadows across his face. "Okay," he said suddenly. "I still feel like I know you from somewhere specific. Maybe a party? A friend's get-together?" I racked my brain trying to place him. I don't really go to a lot of parties, to be honest. I'm more of a small group, quiet night kind of guy. Same here. I hate loud crowds. He smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made you want to see more of it. There was a pause, the kind that doesn't feel awkward but electric, like the moment before a spark ignites. "I guess we'll figure it out eventually," he said, standing up and stretching. "But hey, if this is how meeting people works, maybe I should deliver pizza more often." I laughed, feeling lighter than I had all week. "Yeah, just don't make a habit of running out of toppings. I'm picky." He grinned. "Deal." Before he left, he surprised me by asking for my number, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I gave it to him without hesitation, and then he was gone. Just like that, like a character slipping back out of a story you didn't want to end. As I sat back down with the now half-eaten pizza, I realized something. I was actually looking forward to the next time the doorbell rang. Because maybe, just maybe, this pizza delivery was the start of something way better than a quiet night alone. The next few days felt like I was waiting for something, though I wasn't exactly sure what. I kept checking my phone, half expecting a message from him, but nothing came. I mean, I hadn't even gotten his name yet. He'd been oddly casual about it, kind of slipping away before we could get too deep into introductions. Still, the thought of his smile and those searching eyes stuck with me. I debated whether to text him first, but figured I'd wait. It's funny how you can get caught up in the little routines of life, and suddenly, an unexpected interaction throws everything off balance. I found myself replaying the conversation, the way he laughed when I teased him about toppings, the way he seemed genuinely interested when I talked about my startup job. It was like suddenly I had this new thread woven into my everyday life, and I didn't want to let go of it. Then, about 3 evenings later, my phone buzzed. "Hey, it's me, pizza guy from the other night." I grinned like an idiot and texted back before I even thought about it. "Hey, fancy seeing you here." We ended up texting for a while, the conversation flowing easily. His name was Jamie. He told me a bit more about himself, how graphic design was something he'd been passionate about for years, but he dropped out of school for a bit to figure out what he really wanted. He liked old vinyl records, indie films, and had a weird obsession with collecting vintage cameras. I was already picturing him holding some dusty camera, squinting through the viewfinder, and it made me smile. After a few days of chatting and swapping stories, he asked if I wanted to meet up in person. For a coffee, he said. Somewhere with good espresso and minimal noise. I agreed. Almost immediately. That Saturday afternoon, I found myself standing outside a hip little cafe downtown. The kind with exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, and that unmistakable smell of freshly ground beans and warm pastries. I got there early, nervous in a way I hadn't been in ages. It was wild how meeting someone for the first time felt like stepping into the unknown, even when you'd already shared so much through texts. Jamie showed up 10 minutes later, looking a little more polished than the pizza delivery guy. Clean shirt, jeans that actually looked like they'd been ironed, and the same easy smile that had stuck with me. We ordered our coffees and found a quiet corner. The conversation started off casual, what we'd been up to that week, how the city was treating us, but as the hours passed, it turned into something warmer, deeper, because sometimes the best stories begin with a simple, unexpected hello. After that afternoon, things started to settle into this quiet, easy rhythm. Jamie and I texted pretty much every day, nothing heavy, just little check-ins, sharing weird memes, recommending songs, or swapping thoughts about the ridiculous weather. It was one of those rare things where you didn't feel pressured to keep the conversation going, but both of you wanted to anyway. A few nights later, I found myself scrolling through the texts before bed. Something he'd said about a concert coming to town caught my eye. It was a band I'd heard of, but never really listened to. On a whim, I asked if he wanted to go. His reply was quick, "Hell yes." The night of the show, I was way more nervous than I expected. Not because I wasn't used to concerts, far from it, but because this was more than just a night out. It felt like a step into something new, something I hadn't dared hope for in a while. We met outside the venue, the buzz of the crowd around us, the smell of street food, and the distant thump of music vibrating through the air. Jamie had this effortless way about him, easy smile, relaxed, but with that spark still there, the one that made me want to lean in just a little closer. Inside, the lights were low, the stage glowing, and as the band started playing, I found my attention drifting between the music and Jamie. Watching him get lost in the sound, his head tilting slightly with the beat, made something inside me stir I hadn't felt in a long time. At one point, he caught me looking and grinned, that same smile that had first made me curious when he delivered my pizza. I felt my face warm and turned my gaze back to the stage, pretending I wasn't trying to memorize every little detail about him. After the show, we wandered down the street, the air cool and crisp. Jamie suggested grabbing a late-night coffee, and again, I found myself saying yes before I even realized I wanted to spend more time with him. At the cafe, with the place nearly empty except for a few late-night regulars, we talked about everything and nothing. His voice softened when he spoke about his plans to go back to school, how nervous but excited he was about the future. I shared some of my own fears about the startup, how sometimes I felt like I was spinning my wheels. It was real. No pretenses, no games. At one point, he reached over and lightly touched my hand. It was a simple gesture, but it sent a jolt through me. I looked up, caught his eyes, and for a moment, words weren't necessary. I realized then that maybe this wasn't just about a chance meeting or a pizza delivery anymore. There was something more growing between us, something tentative but undeniable. Over the next few weeks, our connection deepened. We started carving out time for each other between work and school and life's usual mess. Sometimes it was as simple as cooking dinner together at my place, trying to recreate recipes we found online, usually with mixed results and plenty of laughter. Other times, we'd explore the city's hidden corners, tiny bookstores, quiet parks, hole-in-the-wall record shops where Jamie would proudly show me his favorite finds. It felt like I was rediscovering my city through his eyes, and honestly, it was kind of magical. One rainy afternoon, we found ourselves sitting on the floor of my apartment, surrounded by scattered vinyl records and half-drunk cups of tea. Jamie was playing a record he'd just bought, an old jazz album with crackling sounds and smoky vocals. I watched him, the way his fingers traced the edges of the album cover, his eyes closed as the music filled the room. He opened his eyes and caught me staring. "You're really quiet," he said, teasing, "just taking it all in." I replied honestly. "Feels different. Good different." He smiled, that warm, genuine smile that seemed to be reserved just for me. Then, almost shyly, he reached out and tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear. I swallowed hard, heart pounding in a way that was equal parts terrifying and exhilarating. "Hey," he said softly, "can I ask you something?" "Anything." He hesitated, then said, "Do you think we're really doing this? You know, whatever this is." I thought about it. About how I felt when I was with him. The calm, the excitement, the way things just seemed to click without trying too hard. "Yeah," I said finally. "I think we're doing something real, something worth it." His relief was visible, like a weight lifted. And in that moment, with the rain tapping against the windows and the soft jazz playing, I realized that meeting him, random pizza delivery and all, had turned into the kind of story I'd never stop telling. Because sometimes, the most unexpected encounters end up changing everything. After that night, things started to feel more intentional. Like we were both finally willing to admit to ourselves that this wasn't just some fun distraction, but something we actually wanted to figure out. I mean, I'd always been the guy who kept things casual, dodged heavy conversations, and avoided anything that felt too real. But with Jamie, all that hesitance just melted away in these quiet moments we carved out for each other. One evening, About a month after that rainy jazz night, Jamie showed up at my place unannounced. Well, kind of unannounced. I told him earlier that week I was feeling burned out and could use a break from work. So when I heard the knock on my door around 7 p.m., I was both surprised and kind of relieved. I opened the door and there he was, holding a small bag from a bakery down the street. "Thought you might need these," he said, grinning like he knew exactly what I needed. I laughed, stepping aside to let him in. "You're a lifesaver," he shrugged, dropping the bag on the kitchen counter. "What are boyfriends for, right?" I blinked at the word, and it caught me off guard. Not because I wasn't feeling that way, but because hearing it out loud made it real, in a way texts and casual hangouts hadn't yet. We made coffee, sat down on the couch, and just talked. No big plans, no pressure, just two people sharing space and stories. Jamie told me about the graphic design class he'd enrolled in, how nervous he was about his first project, and how he was already thinking about building a portfolio. I shared my own frustrations with work, the endless meetings that felt like a waste of time, the pressure to grow the startup faster than I thought possible. It was comforting, this exchange of honesty. Like we were in it together, even without putting a label on things. At one point, Jamie reached over and intertwined his fingers with mine. Simple, but powerful. The warmth of his hand against mine was grounding, and I squeezed back, surprised at how natural it felt. "You know," he said quietly, "I've been thinking about that night when I delivered your pizza." I smiled, remembering how odd and unexpected that moment was. "Yeah? What about it?" He shrugged, looking a little sheepish. "I was actually a little nervous. I almost didn't say anything about knowing you. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it." I laughed. "Really? You seemed pretty confident." Ha. Inside, I was panicking. But then I saw you open the door like you were just me, and it felt right. I felt my chest tighten a little hearing that. It was funny how something as simple as a pizza delivery had turned into this whole thing between us. We stayed like that for a while, just holding hands, talking low and slow. Eventually, Jamie rested his head on my shoulder, and I realized how much I'd missed having someone close like that. A couple weeks later, we decided to take a little trip outside the city, a weekend getaway to a nearby lake town. Neither of us had been in a while, so it felt like a perfect way to hit pause and just be. We drove up Saturday morning, the road winding past trees turning gold and red with the early signs of autumn. Jamie was humming along to some indie playlist he'd made, and I caught myself grinning at how easy it was to be with him. We checked into a tiny cabin, the kind with a wood-burning fireplace and windows that framed the lake like a postcard. After unpacking, we explored the little town, walking hand in hand through shops, stopping for ice cream, and just enjoying the calm. That night, back at the cabin, we cooked dinner together. Okay, Jamie did most of the cooking while I tried not to burn the garlic bread. We ate by the fire, talking about childhood dreams, embarrassing moments, and the weird turns life takes. At one point, Jamie looked at me, eyes soft but serious. "Hey, I know we've been taking this slow, but I want to be honest. I'm really into you. Like, more than I've been with anyone in a long time." My heart jumped. I feel the same way. Honestly, I've been waiting for the right moment to say it. He smiled, that same smile that had me feeling like I'd hit the jackpot from day one. We stayed up late, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars through the window. It was one of those perfect, quiet moments where everything just clicked. On the way back to the city, the car was quiet but comfortable, like the kind of silence that means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Over the next few months, things kept growing between us. There were highs and lows, of course, work stress, missed plans, moments of doubt. But through it all, Jamie was there, steady and real. He started bringing his old cameras over, and we'd spend weekends wandering the city, him snapping photos while I tried to look cool, pretending I wasn't totally photogenic. He even convinced me to go to an art show with him one night, where some of his designs were displayed. Seeing him talk passionately about his work made me fall for him even more. One evening, after a long day at the startup, I came home to find him waiting with my favorite dinner and that goofy smile. "I figured you needed a break," he said, pulling me into a hug. I melted into him, feeling like this crazy, unexpected thing that started with a pizza delivery had turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. And honestly, I couldn't wait to see where we'd go next. For a while, everything felt like it was moving forward, smooth, steady, and easy in the best way. Jamie and I had settled into a groove where the little things mattered. Morning texts that made me smile before I'd even gotten out of bed. Lazy Sundays with pancakes burnt on purpose because Jamie insisted it made them taste better. And those quiet, stretched out evenings where we just sat on the couch, talking or not talking, but feeling completely at home. But you know how life likes to throw curveballs when you're least expecting it? One of those came a few weeks ago. I was sitting at my desk, trying to focus on a presentation that was due in 2 days, when my phone buzzed with a message from Jamie. It didn't have that usual lighthearted tone. Instead, it was short, almost clipped, and it said, "Can we talk tonight? It's important." My stomach sank. Important? On a random Tuesday night? That usually meant one thing. I tried not to freak out, but the whole afternoon I was on edge, second-guessing every little interaction from the weekend, wondering if I'd missed something. When Jamie finally arrived at my place that night, he looked tired, maybe more tired than usual, and a little tense. We sat down on the couch, and he didn't say anything for a moment, just stared at his hands. I cracked the silence first. "Hey, what's up? You've been texting me all day, but kind of off." He took a deep breath, and I could tell he was fighting with himself to find the right words. "Okay, so I've been offered an amazing opportunity." He began slowly. "A full scholarship to finish my graphic design degree, but it's in another state. It's a big deal, and it could change everything for me." My heart jumped in that confusing way, where you want to be happy for him but also feel this creeping sense of loss. "Wow," I said, running a hand through my hair. "That's huge. I'm really proud of you." He nodded, biting his lip. "I was hoping to figure out how to tell you in person instead of just texting, but it kind of slipped out." I felt a mix of emotions swirling: pride, jealousy, fear, hope. Trying to keep my voice steady, I asked, "Have you decided if you're going to take it?" Jamie looked up, eyes shining with something like determination and sadness all mixed together. "I think I have to. It's too good to pass up, but I don't want to lose what we have." I swallowed hard, my mind racing to catch up. "Neither do I. But how do we do this? Long distance. I don't want to be that cliche couple that just fizzles out." He reached out and squeezed my hand. "I don't know, but I do know I want to try. I want us to try." For a moment, the weight of it all settled between us like a thick fog. The possibility of what was coming felt both terrifying and oddly exciting. We spent the rest of the night talking through plans, fears, and the logistics of long distance. The video calls, weekend visits, and how we'd keep each other grounded despite the miles. Things weren't going to be easy, that was for sure. But there was something brave about committing to something uncertain, about putting faith in us no matter what the clock or the calendar said. The weeks leading up to his move were bittersweet. We tried to cram as much time as possible into those days. Late night walks, movie marathons, even that ridiculous cooking experiment where we accidentally set off the smoke alarm. On the day he left, I drove him to the airport. It was quiet in the car, the city buzzing around us, but inside, everything felt heavy. When we finally hugged goodbye, it was that kind of hug that makes you realize how much you're going to miss someone before they even walk through that gate. "Promise me something?" Jamie whispered. "Anything. Don't let go, no matter what." I nodded, tears prickling in my eyes. "I promise." Now, weeks into this new chapter, the distance is tough. There are days when I miss his laugh, or the way he'd lean into me during a movie. But then there are calls where we talk for hours, and I remember why this is worth it. And sometimes, late at night, when the city is quiet, I think back to that moment, when a pizza delivery turned into a connection that neither of us saw coming. It's wild how life works like that. You never know when the next unexpected doorbell will change everything. But one thing I do know, I'm holding on tight. Months passed, and yeah, long distance was hard. There were days it felt like the silence between our calls stretched too far, and the time zones turned simple texts into puzzles. But every time I caught sight of his name on my phone, I felt that same spark I'd felt the first time he showed up at my door with a pizza. It wasn't just the excitement. It was something deeper, something steady, something worth holding on to. We made it work by carving out little rituals. Sunday night video chats became sacred, a chance to share the small victories and frustrations of the week. We sent care packages, him, old records and sketches, me, snacks from our favorite spots in the city. When we finally saw each other, it was like no time had passed at all. Just two people who'd been building something through miles, laughter, and honesty. One chilly evening, about 6 months after he'd left, Jamie surprised me. He showed up at my door with a suitcase in one hand and a nervous smile on his face. "I thought I'd see if you still wanted to have dinner with me," he said, raising an eyebrow. I laughed, heart pounding in this good, familiar way. "I'd say yes, but I think I want more than dinner." He grinned, stepping inside. That night, we cooked together, stumbled over recipes, and shared stories like no distance had ever come between us. Sitting there with him, the guy who once delivered a pizza and then claimed to know me from somewhere, I realized how strange and beautiful life could be. How sometimes the most unexpected moments turn into the most meaningful chapters. I don't know what the future holds exactly, but I do know this: whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Because this, us, is worth the uncertainty, the distance, the late night calls, and the messy, beautiful in between. And for now, that's more than enough.